All right, so a reminder again of our code of conduct. You all have signed it. I want to remind you of the shared values of kindness, trust, respect, diversity, and inclusiveness. So in this session, in the next hour, I think, what we thought is we're going to make sure that you're familiar with the audience of the report that we're going to write in the next few days and a couple of weeks following that. We're going to go over the report in some detail, what the SCOC, which I will remind you in a second what it is, would like to receive in terms of format and kind of information. We also have some notebooks that we're going to show. Well, Igor has some notebooks that he's going to show to give you some ideas about how you can design strategies. But let's start with, and then we have a time slot for discussion. That's an open time slot for discussion where we can talk together about how things are going to be organized for the next few days and few weeks. Also, if there is no need, then we can break at that point and people can go and work in groups on the report session. So we'll see. So the SCOC, you've seen this acronym a few times, is the Survey Cadence Optimization Committee. You can get more information on the SCOC at ls.st/RubinSCOC. Here you have the mugshot of all the members, the current members of the SCOC, who I again want to thank for their continuous effort and work. Many of them are here. If they're here physically, they have a sticker with the person that reads the book. You can reach out to them to ask questions. And also, I want to acknowledge the survey strategy team. We have Peter here in person, Lynn and Eric, I think, remotely. And this is the team that is producing simulations of the observing strategy of LSST, which then can be used to see how LSST is successful at achieving specific science goals. So the workflow of this process is that the survey strategy team produces essentially databases of observations that LSST might do following some rules for the strategy. And then we can attach to that science metrics that measure with those observations how well a science case can be achieved. We have a few simulations for some hypothetical TO survey strategy. We can produce more. We might say a few words about these tomorrow. But right now, I just wanted to remind you again, I know we already said that, but it's important to emphasize how this process works. The SCOC is in charge of making a recommendation for the entire LSST observing strategy. This means like the wide, fast, deep, the mini and micro surveys, as well as the target opportunity program. So we are engaging in a global optimization. And I realize that global optimization will mean that probably your idealized target opportunity program might not fit in the global optimization of the full survey strategy. The SCOC has already considered TOs as a potential micro-survey, mini-survey, survey adjacent to the wide, fast, deep. Actually, I have this slide that I forgot I put in. I just wanted to show you over time, this is the kind of work that we do. We have a bunch of science cases that run vertically on this slide. And then we make new simulations. And on the simulations, we measure the impact of the observing strategy on the science cases. And what I really want you to take home and notice is that this plot is largely more blue on the right hand and more red on the left hand. And red means the science cases are less good. Blue means they're better. So we're improving on most of the science that LSST will do comprehensively and globally, which is a hard thing to do and a great achievement for us, for the community that has worked on this. So the SCOC is a standing committee of LSST. That means that while we are charged with making a recommendation for the initial survey strategy when we start observing shortly, then we are also going to be a standing committee of the observatory that exists for the 10 years of the LSST. So that means that the survey strategy itself will be responsive. We'll be responsive of changes of priority in the scientific landscape because we believe that LSST will be impactful and the scientific priorities will change. And we'll be responsive to make sure that how we envision the survey strategy to run and the success that we envision it has on all the science cases is confirmed when we actually do that in practice. Among those things, we do fully expect to engage in modifications of the TO strategy, because it is one of the hardest things to plan and one of the most uncertain aspects of the LSST. So we do expect to regularly review how the TO program is going and make modifications to our recommendation, to the survey strategy that you all design now. So while this is an important point in time to make the recommendations from you to the SCOC and from the SCOC to the Observatory Director and then implement them, there will be more opportunities for reviewing what we have decided today. Nothing is written in stone. And the SCOC, after the beginning of the survey strategy, the SCOC will continue to work with the community in a number of ways that I want to mention here. We have liaisons in the science collaboration. Most of the people here are members of one or more of science collaborations. We encourage you to ask me or some of the chairs of the science collaborations that are present. If you are not a member of the science collaboration, that is the best way to get involved in discussing how to do science with LSST. We will have a call for annual feedback. We'll have a community portal that is an open portal where feedback can be submitted on a rolling basis, although we do commit to communicate with the community annually about changes to the survey strategy, and we will release quarterly report on the survey strategy progress. And that is together with, you already heard, we will have a specific committee that will help monitoring and assessing the success of the Target of Opportunity program, which will run in parallel with these efforts. I think that's, so yeah, the SCOC is the audience for your template. I think at this point I can pass it to you. Is that okay?
Yes, at this point, we thought it would be good to just walk together through the template that we have prepared for the final report that we want to deliver. I suggest if you have questions about the specific bits, maybe note them down. Let's discuss later. Also, because of this microphone situation, it can be cumbersome to interrupt and have people walk here at all times. But then this will be your opportunity to ask in case you have any burning question about what we thought to put together as a structure and a way of helping you deliver your thoughts. So the SCOC is the target audience. That's something to be kept in mind. And the final goal is try to get a community consensus. It's not an easy thing to do. Everyone wants to do things slightly differently. So let's be ready to get to some compromise and get to a sensible result by the end of the workshop that we can keep improving in the future. For the format, we were thinking of one single report to deliver, divided in chapters. Each chapter will basically be a different science case. You can envision, if you want, the chapters as if they were separate documents, but eventually we want to just pull them all together and have them speak as much as possible as a single voice. So the initial part of the template will be somewhat similarly to what you would expect from a telescope proposal. In a few words, try to convey the key goals of your science case. Assume that not everyone in the audience will be an expert in the specific science case, and help them understand what are your key requirements in terms of depth, in the time frame in which you want to have the trigger happen, the area, which filters, all these type of features. And also don't forget to point out clearly why we need Rubin. That's also why what our chairs that gave a talk earlier already thought about and delivered to us. Why Rubin and not other telescopes? Something else regarding it is very important for TOs are activation criteria. Under which conditions should we have the system? So I have a decision tree that help us understand when TOs should be activated. And possibly do that putting some values, some numbers we can then use as kind of general guidance. Eventually, what we want to come up with is a time budget. If the time budget for your proposed TO exceeds 3% of the survey time, that's not okay. The reason being, we will also try at the end of the workshop and at the level of SCOC, it's not something we have to do, but someone will try to get all the science cases within this 3% if more time cannot be allocated. Maybe in the future, we can think of that too. But so be mindful about the time budget. And we tried here to give some variables, if you want, that you can play with regarding the search area, the event rate, the maximum delay from the trigger. So how long is it acceptable to wait before a TO is triggered for your science to still make sense, for the observation to still be useful, sorry, to your science case. That's what I mean to say. And something you also should point out is whether the time budget is kind of contingent to other type of instruments or conditions, such as, I think the easiest example in this case is whether gravitational wave detectors are on or not, or in downtime, or whatever is happening with neutrino detectors or other type of external resources we may be relying on for the triggers. Here you can see in orange something that kind of ties to what Eric Belm told us about today, about non-conventional observing. Here, non-conventional even means exposure times that are different than 30 seconds. So standard 30-second exposure, that's what the pipelines can handle. There is still huge uncertainty about what pipelines will be able to do if we vary standard parameters. Nevertheless, we decided after much deliberation to encourage you all to think in terms of depth that is needed for your science case to be achieved successfully. Don't be shy if you move away from the 30-second exposure. It's okay. Just make sure it's reasonable, and let's discuss in case you have any doubt about that. And unfortunately, like Eric said, at the moment, automatic stacking, especially in real time, and doing transient discovery that way is not supported. So that's, I think, an option that is obviously very valuable and should be talked more about in the future, but is outside the scope of this specific workshop. And then there is a bit in the template in which we ask you all to come up with some baseline strategies for the observations. Oh, how do you want to do it? And we appreciate that it's very hard to come up with one strategy that fits it all, especially if you don't even know what type of electromagnetic transient may be associated, for example, to your high energy neutrino source. However, you can also split this, or actually more than split it, multiply this strategy for different cases. But if you manage to be clear and have these cases as simple as possible, this will greatly help the SCOC, we believe. And in particular, we will ask to put down the observing strategies for day 0. So that's the same day or same night in which a trigger happens and TOs have to be activated. Day 1 will be the following night, day 2. And we will also ask whether, what's the rationale behind requiring more than one set of observation on the night of the trigger. And I think that that is all that concerns the notebook. Again, if you have questions, I hope you have them jotted somewhere and we can discuss in as soon as I finish this brief talk. There are some tools that a couple of people have prepared to help in the definition of the strategies, the plotting, visualization, and estimating the time budgets. I have just seen Clesio de Bomb's message about his the notebook that he prepared for the neutron star for the binary black hole merger case. Neutron star black holes. So I read it right. I literally read it like 1 minute before walking here. So yes, so there is more than one notebook, one by Clesio that will be also made available to everyone this afternoon. Here I have just a couple of slides about a notebook that I prepared that you can access via GitHub or even using Google Colab, which basically means just with one click or a bit more, and is putting together some instruction for you to do that. The idea is should be really easy to get it running. So please don't be afraid, use it or ask me, Fed, or people around you about how that could be done. The idea for the notebook is to have some visualization tools for the survey strategies, plotting of light curves for different transient models, and more models are welcome. So if you have your favorite either single model or grid of models for various type of transients, let me know. I'll do what I can, like between today and tomorrow, to have them implemented, or at later stages, in case you want to see those plots in the final report, even after the workshop is over. And then there is a section for time budgets and a small exposure time calculator that I've put together, basically just taking some equations that were made available by the project and put them in a Python format. So the idea, again, is to be as user-friendly as possible. So you will have these dictionaries in which you can input your favorite strategy. In this case, I called it the fabulous strategy. All you have to do is indicate the hours from the starting of the observing window of Rubin, and just put when you would like the observation to happen. For example, here I've put 2, 8, 24, and 48 hours after the beginning of the observations are possible. I did not indicate the exposure times here, but indicated the depth. You can actually do it both ways. Either indicate depth, and the code will automatically do the exposure times for you, or you can do the exposure times if you really want to go that route, and the code will use the depth that it calculates. And for each epoch, just indicate which filters you would like to see Rubin using. This is the type of plot that is shown. Something very important is that you will see these pies have 6 slices. This does not mean that we will be able to observe in 6 filters on a given night. The filter wheel of Rubin only has slots for 5 filters. But the reason why we kept the pie with 6 slices is just to indicate that you would like to use all the available filters on a given night. And here is just a quick visualization of one of the kilonova models that you can use. These are from the model grid by Mattia Bulla, obtained with the POSIS code. I think there are like 50 type of kilonovae that I've placed at distances between 100 to 700 megaparsecs at intervals of 100 megaparsec. You can use different type of models if you prefer. I think this is should be enough, at least for the scope of the live aspect of the workshop, to get some quick visualization to see if what we're doing makes sense. Something else that people are working on, and thank you especially to Lynn and Peter for that, is stress the system. So we have, some of us, Fed, myself and others, have provided Peter and Lynn with quite a large variety of TO strategies, some based on papers or an expansion of those. And we tried to probe how those observations impact the LSST survey overall as a function of number of events. What if there are only 5 events per year? If there are 64 events per year? So this analysis is in progress, and it will be, I think, very useful feedback for us to understand the impact on science that our proposed TOs will have overall. So this is my concluding slide. What are the goals and expectations and the timeline for the workshop? So we will work towards producing the report. That's the goal, something to keep in mind when discussing and noting down in the template what we have agreed upon. And after the workshop, there will be some time in which the workshop, the various session chairs can work on a draft, and then people can review the draft. We were thinking to do that by April 7th, but we were asked, and we find it reasonable to move a bit further the deadline for the report to be finalized to be April 14th. We hope that this is enough time to do a good job, but at the same time, we would like to do that as fast as possible so that things are still fresh in our mind. And more importantly, this will have to go to the SCOC, give them time to review it, and possibly have it ready by June, so that in July, we can already maybe have that presented also at the Rubin Community Workshop. So this will be then the SCOC's duty at that point to make decisions based on the report, and hopefully they will be able to give us direct feedback in the September time window that they had for this type of task. Eventually, we think would be a good idea to make the report citable, so post it on archive, and perhaps consider also some peer review options if we believe it would be worth the effort. And I will stop here, and I will leave Fed to chair the discussion part now. Thank you.
So we have quite a bit of time that is scheduled for discussion. Like I said, we don't have to use it all. We can also move into breakout rooms and work on the reports in groups. But let's see if there are questions. Yes. Just ask the question and I will repeat it for the audience.
You're saying 3% all tools, right?
So we had that I had the quote exactly in the template and in the previous deck. So the SCOC second recommendation, which is at the link lsst.io PSTN055. There's a link in the templates for that. Stated that recommended that about 3% of the Rubin sky times of the images should be used for TO. 3% because that didn't impact the survey strategy, didn't impact the science cases from the wide fast deep, or minimally impacted them. And anything more would have had a significant impact on wide fast deep science cases. But I want to emphasize that this also does depend on how the observations are taken. And one of the things that we didn't know, and we stated that we didn't know in this report, is what is the distribution over time of these 3%, because we have, LIGO, Virgo, Cagra runs that are concentrated in time. So the true number that will be approved has to be revised and confirmed once we know a little bit more about what are the details of the observing strategy. Having said that, it is unlikely that any more than 3% will be devoted for TO at least at the beginning of the observing of the LSST survey.
Question would be a follow-up of this. How do you convert in hours, for instance? Have an idea of how much time?
Peter, what is the total number of images or time on a survey?
We have 2 million visits total, and there are 30-second visits. So you get about 50,000.
Sorry, the question was, how do we convert that in actual time for the TO program? And the answer is that we have about 2 million visits overall in the 10 years of the survey. So that's X% of those number of visits. Yes.
Is there a concern or is that 2%? That's an average over 10 years. 5 is, of course, finite times there. What's the view on the sensitivity of the survey to that?
So the question is, what is the sensitivity of the survey on how that 3% is concentrated, especially because the LKV runs are concentrated in time. So there's 2 things that the TO program impacts is the total depth of the survey in the areas that are not where we don't take TO observations. That goes a little bit down because we take fewer images in those areas. And there's a cadence that impact time domain science. So we have gaps in the typical cadence that we would have because we take parts of nights away for the observations. Roughly speaking, the first one is not very sensitive to how you concentrate the time. There might be some details there because we have targeted data releases, and some science depends on a data release. So if you put all the 3% of the time on ER4, I'm pretty sure that the people that want to use data release 5 on ER4, yes, that's right, would have a problem with that. And then for the time domain, it is not super sensitive to how you concentrate the images, but it will be sensitive at some point. So we don't have simulations that really concentrate that 3% of the time, but we can make them. Peter, right? We can make them. And so once we have a better idea of what the survey strategy recommendations are from the audience, we will remake these simulations and find the maximum amount of time that we can spend that way. Any other questions? What do people want to do? Do you want to split into groups and go work? Anything online? If you are online and you ask the question, we will get to you promptly.
So somebody's asking about the notebook link. I haven't published.
Oh, yes, you did. I did on your behalf. So the link to the notebook that Igor mentioned is pinned on the general channel as a bookmark on general and on Q&A in both channels. The slides will be posted on general as soon as I step off the podium.
Did you post it as well?
No, if you accept the pull request, then instructions for collab are on the pull request. Okay, do we all want to go split up and work? Excellent. Yes.
So we actually have 3 spaces available. One is this room, one is the patio, and one is Kinsey's room, which is downstairs. When you walked in, if you keep walking in front of you, you hit a door, that's Kinsey's room, and it's labeled for us. Who wants to stay? GW people are probably more numerous. Kinsey's is a little bit smaller. So my suggestion would be neutrinos, probably either on the patio or Kinsey's room, and GW to stay here because it's the biggest room. That would be my suggestion.
Then let's maybe the people that are chairing each of the working groups, can you get up a second? People may have connected with you only remotely and not realize that it's you. Sylvia, Tim Lister, just so these are your science case editors, chairs, so go to them and find a place with them to go work. Folks online, then you are off the hook, but I'm going to leave the connection open until the end of the hour. What time is it? I don't know how to remove this. I'm going to leave the Zoom connection open until the end of the hour. So for another 45 minutes, if you want to continue working together or working with the people in the room, and I'll direct every one of the science cases to have somebody on Zoom if you want to connect with them. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow in the very early hour of the Pacific time. I don't remember at what time. Vedi un po' se quelli che sono in città, magari anche poi scrivere in questa sì, infatti si dice su Slack, questa è una ma questo non è sentito, adesso io vediamo un attimo.
So it'll be not connected, right?
Yeah.
Then should we assume for this downstairs? You want me to put this guys in? So.
Actually, I misspoke because there are people in the Pacific and America's time zones that are going to be remote. So the Zoom link will remain open so long as we're in session. And there will be breakout rooms for the individual science cases. Infatti sono già messi. Ci sono 11 breakout room che esistono già.